Propionibacterium shermani is used to create holes in the cheese, which we call it as the Swiss cheese. Fermented fish can be pickled. Fermented soya bean also, it can be used for pickling. Bamboo shoots also, it can be used for various culinary purposes. Antibiotics can also be given to patients who are severely wounded so that bacterial infections won't happen and therefore sepsis can be prevented. Saccharomyces cerevisiae, which is commonly called as the baker's yeast. Hello everyone, a warm welcome to this session for Class 12 Biology. I am Dr. Divya, Biology faculty. So we shall begin with the first session for Chapter 8, that is Microbes in Human Welfare. So you might have learnt in the previous sessions, that is of Chapter Human Health and Disease, how microbes were harmful for humans and we call them pathogens, right? Similarly, there are some microbes which are good for human beings also, wherein they can be used in a lot of industries for sewage treatment and all that. So in this particular session, we will learn how microbes are useful in the food industries, the alcohol industries, the baking industries and all that. So to begin with, we'll learn about microbes in household products. So we all know about curds, right? So what is curds? Curds is nothing but the curdling of milk. So if that milk needs to get curdled, then there needs to be a bacteria that is present in it, right? So that bacteria is called as lactic acid bacteria, or we call it as lactobacillus. So what does this lactobacillus or lactic acid bacteria do? So the lactobacillus, they grow in milk and they convert the milk into curds. And during their growth, this lactic acid bacteria or the lactobacillus, they coagulate and partially digest the milk proteins, that is casein and all that. They will digest that and that will get converted into curds. So now curds is rich in vitamin B12. So in turn, the lactic acid bacteria or lactobacillus, they increase the vitamin B12 content in the milk. So how do they increase the vitamin B12 content in the milk? By curdling the milk and converting into curds. So that is why consuming curds is very, very healthy, because it contains lots of vitamin B12, and vitamin B12 is very, very important in improving our nervous system, in building up of the DNA. For all that, vitamin B12 is needed. So that is the use of the lactic acid bacteria. Say for example, if we need to convert the milk into curds, it's not necessary that you need to have a live culture or a fresh culture of the bacteria that you need to buy from the laboratory and all that. No. So already the curds that is there at home, it can act as an inoculum. Inoculum in the sense, it already contains the lactic acid bacteria in it. So that 1 teaspoon of curd, if you pour it into the milk, the bacteria will multiply there and it will break down it will partially digest the milk proteins that is present and it will convert the milk into curds. So that is about the function of the lactic acid bacteria. So what does lactic acid bacteria help in? It helps in curdling of the milk, thereby increasing the vitamin B12 content in it, or increasing the nutritional quality of the milk. So that is about lactic acid bacteria. There are some microbes which are used in the baking industry. Say for example, we have Saccharomyces cerevisiae. So Saccharomyces cerevisiae is commonly called as yeast, right? Or we call it as the baker's yeast. So Saccharomyces cerevisiae can be called as the baker's yeast, or it can be called as the brewer's yeast, because it is used in the brewing industry as well, and we will learn about that in the coming slide. Now talking about the Saccharomyces cerevisiae, which is commonly called as the baker's yeast. So what is it used in? It is mainly used in making bread. So it is helpful in fermenting the dough, which is actually needed for baking the bread. So that is the function of Saccharomyces cerevisiae. Not just for bread, for making biscuit, for fermenting the dough, we need to add Saccharomyces cerevisiae. And there are some other microbes which are used in traditional ways to enhance the quality of the food, or in making traditional drinks and foods. Say for example, toddy. So toddy, one more name for that is Nira. So toddy is got from some of the palm plants. So these palm plants, what they do is they'll make a cut from the top portion of the palm plant wherein the sap will start oozing out. That sap is usually in fermented form, and that fermentation happens because of some of the microbes that are present there, and that fermented beverage is used as an alcoholic beverage and it is called as toddy, which is a traditional alcoholic drink which has some of the health benefits as well. So some of the microbes are used in making toddy, and some of the microbes are also used in fermenting fish, in fermenting soya bean and bamboo shoots. So fermented fish can be pickled, fermented soya bean also it can be used for pickling, bamboo shoots also it can be used for various culinary purposes. So for fermenting some of the foods also microbes are used. So these are the examples of Saccharomyces cerevisiae and also role of some microbes in general which is used in traditional drinks and food preparation. Next, talking about a bacteria which is called as Propionibacterium shermani. So Propionibacterium shermani is used in making cheese. Now you can ask me, how is it used in making cheese? Because cheese is got from a process that is done in the milk, right? So here, some of the cheese, if you look, they'll have a lot of pores or holes in it, right? So this holes is nothing but because of the carbon dioxide gas that gets accumulated. So if that carbon dioxide gas needs to get accumulated or should be trapped in the cheese to create that holes, then they use this bacteria which is called as Propionibacterium shermani. And apart from that, it also adds a flavor to the cheese. So they are used in the cheese industries. There is one more organism or microbe that is used in the cheese industry, that is especially in making Roquefort cheese. So these microbes, they are used in ripening the cheese, and the main microbe that is involved in this particular process of preparing Roquefort cheese is called as Penicillium roqueforti. So that Penicillium roqueforti, which is a fungi, you can see here, you can see these blue molds that are there. It is nothing but Penicillium roqueforti. So this fungi is used in making of or preparation of cheese. The only thing is it improves the texture of the cheese and also it adds a kind of flavor to the cheese which some of the people prefer. So that is how some of the bacteria, for example, Propionibacterium shermani is used to create holes in the cheese, which we call it as the Swiss cheese. So they're called as a Swiss cheese, and there is a particular fungi which is called as Penicillium roqueforti that is used in making a cheese with a specific flavor. So these are the examples of some of the bacteria and fungi that are used in the cheese industry. Next, talking about the microbes in fermented beverages. Of course, in fermented beverages, the microbe that is used here is the unicellular fungi, that is unicellular organism, that is yeast, which is also called as brewer's yeast. And brewer's yeast has been used since ages in making wine, beer, whiskey, brandy or rum by fermenting the malted cereal. So it can be got from rice, it can be got from wheat. So from wheat and rice are the common ones that are preferred in making beer, and wheat is the one that is the most preferred. So we need to ferment those cereals in order to make them into alcoholic beverages. So for that, yeast is, which is called as brewer's yeast, is actually preferred. So alcoholic beverages can be made in two ways. One is with distillation and the other one is without distillation. So wine and beer doesn't require any distillation. Directly the fermented form of that cereal can be directly consumed, or the fermented grape that is there can be directly consumed as wine. But in some cases, some of the alcoholic beverages such as whiskey, brandy and rum, they are produced by a process called as distillation, wherein fermentation is also involved. So examples of alcoholic beverages which involves fermentation without distillation, that is wine and beer. Examples of alcoholic beverages which require distillation as well as fermentation, it is whiskey, brandy and rum. So these are how the yeast, that is a brewer's yeast, helps in the alcoholic industries or beverage industries. Next, talking about microbes and their role in antibiotics. So antibiotic, the word antibiotic is derived from the Greek word wherein anti means against. So it is working against something. It is working against a biotic component. It is working against an organism that is having life, right? So, and bio means life. So together they mean against life. So in the human health and disease chapter, we have learned some of the bacteria that cause diseases to humans. So if we need to bring down the activity of the bacteria in our body or curb the activity of that particular bacteria in our body, then the doctors prescribe antibiotics to us, right? So there are many microbes which are used in the antibiotic industries. So these are chemical substances which are produced by some of the microbes, and they are used in order to completely stop, kill or retard the growth of the other microbes, especially the bacteria. Antibiotics cannot be used for other organisms. It can be used only for the bacterial pathogen. So that is about antibiotics. Now talking about antibiotics, one of the most important antibiotic that we all know is penicillin, right? So any form of infection regarding to the bacteria in our body, penicillin is being given. Penicillin, is it derived from a bacteria? No. Penicillin is got from a fungi which is called as Penicillium notatum. Penicillium notatum is a fungi, just like how we talked about Penicillium roqueforti, right? Same way, it is a species of Penicillium notatum, and penicillin vaccine was discovered by the scientist Alexander Fleming. So this was the breakthrough for different types of vaccines to come into the medical industry, right? And different types of antibiotics to come into the medical field. So imagine how we would have survived without antibiotics, right? Antibiotics was a breakthrough in the field of medicine, and the credit goes to Alexander Fleming, who's the pioneer of antibiotics. And apart from Alexander Fleming, there are two important scientists whom we need to remember. One is Ernest Chain and Howard Florey. So Ernest Chain and Howard Florey, they were the first people to use penicillin extensively, that is on a large scale, to treat American soldiers wounded in the World War II. Antibiotics can also be given to patients who are severely wounded so that bacterial infections won't happen and therefore sepsis can be prevented. So that is how penicillin was, though it was discovered by Alexander Fleming, these two scientists, that is Ernest Chain and Howard Florey, were the first to introduce it into the world on a large scale, wherein they treated the World War II wounded soldiers. And therefore, Alexander Fleming, Ernest Chain and Howard Florey, they were awarded the Nobel Prize in the year 1945 for this outstanding discovery. So this is about penicillin. Apart from penicillin, we have other types of antibiotics that are also available now. We have streptomycin, tetracycline and all that, which are antibiotics that use whenever we have a bacterial infection, like you might have read in the tablet, amoxicillin tablets and all that. So they are all nothing but antibiotics. So next, let's talk about some of the microbes which are used in the chemical, enzyme and bioactive molecule related industries. So talking about organic acids, alcohols and enzymes. So some of the examples of organic acids. Aspergillus niger. Aspergillus niger is a fungi. So Aspergillus niger, most of you might have seen. You can find it on some of the rotting fruits and all that. Usually they will be found. And from this particular Aspergillus niger, an organic acid is derived, which is called as citric acid. And this citric acid is quite very useful in the juice making industries. And not just that, the citric acid is also useful in some of the pickling industries also. Next is Acetobacter aceti, which is a bacterium, and from this the organic acid acetic acid is derived, and acetic acid is one of the preservatives. So therefore it is used in the pickle industries and the jam industries and all that as a preservative. Next is Clostridium butylicum, which is also a bacteria from which butyric acid is got, and butyric acid are used in the paint industries and all that. Next is lactobacillus, which is a bacterium from which lactic acid is got. So this is about some of the role of microbes in the organic, that is in the food industries itself, wherein organic acids can be derived from them and it can be used for various purposes. Next is role of some of the microbes in alcohol industry. We have already learned about it. Say for example, Saccharomyces cerevisiae, that is the brewer's yeast, which is used in making ethanol. So fermenting cereals into alcohol or ethanol. And some of the microbes are used as enzymes also. Say for example, lipases. Lipases that is derived from the microbes are used in detergents. Why? Because the lipase enzyme is capable of removing stain or dirt from the cloth. So therefore it is used in the laundry industries. Next, pectinases and proteases. So pectinases and proteases enzymes derived from some of the microbes. They are used in bottled fruit juices. So why do they use it is because, for example, whenever we prepare a juice at home, it doesn't appear clear, right? It appears to be a kind of muddy, I can say, like it's not clear. But the juice bottles that we buy from the market, it is always clear. There is no pulp in it and nothing, right? So how is it done? It is because of the pectinases and proteases that are used in extracting only the juice from the fruit and dissolving the other content. So that is why clear juice bottles are obtained when we buy it from the market rather than the one that are prepared at home. And there is a bacteria which is called as Streptococcus. So this bacteria, Streptococcus, it produces an enzyme which is called as streptokinase. And this streptokinase is got from a genetically engineered or genetically modified Streptococcus bacteria. And the streptokinase derived is used as a clot buster. So it is used in a heart patient in order to remove the clots that are there. So for that it is used. So it is used as a clot buster. So next, talking about the role of microbes as bioactive molecules. So there is a fungi which is called as Trichoderma polysporum. So from Trichoderma polysporum, cyclosporin A is used. So cyclosporin A, already we have studied about this in the previous sessions, wherein it is used as an immunosuppressive agent. So what do we mean by an immunosuppressive agent? So whenever a patient is undergoing an organ transplant, say for example, a kidney transplant is happening. So we have the patient and there is the donor. So when the donor gives the kidney to the patient, it is a foreign body, right? Because it is coming from some other person. The kidney is coming from some other person. So in such a case, what happened? The patient's immune system itself will start thinking that it is a foreign body and it will start producing antibodies against it and it will start attacking it, therefore failing the organ. So that is why in such patients who are undergoing an organ transplant, first itself immunosuppressive agents will be given so that the immune cells will be suppressed and it will not be able to attack the organ that has been transplanted. So therefore it is used in organ transplant patients, that is cyclosporin A, which is an immunosuppressive agent derived from the fungi Trichoderma polysporum. And there is one more unicellular organism, that is Monaskis purpurus. It is a species of yeast. From that, statin is derived, and statins have been commercialized as blood cholesterol lowering agent. So in order to lower the bad cholesterol in the blood, statins are used. So how does they function? So statins, it inhibits the enzyme which is responsible for the synthesis of cholesterol in a body. So therefore, when the release of that enzyme is inhibited, therefore cholesterol production also drops down. So that is how statin works. So statin, it is derived from Monaskis purpurus, which is a species of yeast. So this was about the session wherein we learnt about microbes and their uses. So we got to know how different bacteria, fungi and yeast are useful for human beings. So we learned bacteria, some of the bacteria from which organic acids are derived, some of the fungi which are used in making cheese, some of the bacteria also which are used in making cheese, and the yeast that is used in the alcohol industry, and also yeast from which statin is derived, and also how some of the fungi from which certain enzymes are derived which can be used as a clot buster, which can be used as an immunosuppressive agent. So all that we got to know from this particular topic, from this particular session. So apart from knowing microbes as being harmful to humans, we also got to know how microbes are useful for human as well. So this was about this session. So in the coming session, we will learn about microbes in sewage treatment. Every day, lots of sewage is being released from the industries or from the domestic household, right? So all these sewage, how is it treated and how microbes play a role in that particular treatment of the sewage water, we will look into. We can't use some chemical agents for treating it, right? Of course, chlorine can be used, but not to that extent. Because again, it is, in turn, we are polluting the water. So in turn, naturally, how can the sewage water be treated with the use of microbes, we will learn. And also in that, we will learn two types of treatment in the sewage treatment. That is the first step where primary treatment of the sewage water will happen and the secondary treatment of the sewage water will happen. So we'll look about sewage treatment and the role of microbes in sewage treatment in the coming session. So see you in the coming session. Thank you.